Hey, welcome back. If you haven't watched part one yet, go do that first. Seriously, pause this, go watch it, then come back. The two parts work together and you're going to want the full picture. But if you're caught up and ready to stop wasting your study sessions, buckle in, because we're about to get into 6 more strategies that are grounded in actual science, not just productivity fluff someone posted on the internet. And do not skip the last one. I'm not saying that just to keep you watching. The last tip is genuinely the one most people never figure out, and it might be the reason everything else you've tried hasn't worked. Tip 1. Your brain is actively working against you, and here's how to fight it back. Let's start with something a little uncomfortable. That thing you studied last Tuesday, most of it is already gone. Well, not some of it, most of it. Research on something called the forgetting curve shows that within 24 hours of learning new information, the average person has lost somewhere around 70% of it. 70. That's not a rounding error. That's almost everything. And here's the part that should make you feel a little better. It's not your fault. This isn't a you problem. This is a brain problem. Your brain is ruthlessly efficient, and part of that efficiency means aggressively deleting information it doesn't think you need. If you only encountered something once, your brain files it under probably not important and starts clearing it out almost immediately. So what do you do about it? You trick your brain into thinking the information matters by forcing it to retrieve that information repeatedly over time. This is called spaced repetition, and it is one of the most well-documented, consistently proven study techniques in cognitive science. The concept is dead simple. You study something today, you review it tomorrow. Then you come back to it 3 days after that, then a week later. Each time you successfully recall the information, your brain reinforces that neural pathway. It's like welding a joint. One pass gives you something fragile. Multiple passes over time, and you've got something that holds. The critical thing most students get wrong here is they confuse volume with effectiveness. They think studying something 5 times in a single night is the same as studying it 5 times spread across 2 weeks. It is absolutely not the same. Cramming gives you short-term recall that evaporates the moment you walk out of the exam room, while spaced repetition builds memories that actually last. The counterintuitive truth is that you will remember significantly more by putting in less effort per session and simply spreading those sessions out. Stop marathon studying, start spacing. Your brain will thank you, and more importantly, your grades will show it. Tip 2, the blurting method, the brutally honest study technique nobody talks about enough, okay? This one doesn't get nearly enough attention, and I genuinely don't know why, because it is extraordinarily effective, and it costs you nothing but a blank piece of paper and a few minutes of discomfort. Here's the move. You close everything. Close your notes, close your Westbook, close your laptop, put your phone face down. Just now take a blank sheet of paper and write down absolutely everything you know about the topic you've been studying. Don't organize it. Don't make it pretty. Don't pause to think about whether something is exactly right. Just dump everything out of your brain onto the page as fast as you can. Blurt it all out, hence the name. Now, once you've emptied your brain, go back to your notes and compare. Look at what you wrote versus what was actually there. What did you get right? Great, those things are sticking. What did you get wrong? Make a note. But most importantly, what did you completely miss? What wasn't even on the page? That gap between what you thought you knew and what was actually missing is your entire study agenda. That right there is the information your brain hasn't retained yet. Not the stuff you reviewed and understood. Or not the stuff that felt easy. The stuff that was completely absent from your memory when you were asked to produce it. This matters because most students study by rereading. They go over their notes again and again, and they feel productive because the information looks familiar. But familiarity and actual recall are completely different things. You can feel like you know something while being totally unable to produce it on an exam. Blurting forces retrieval, which is what exams actually test. You're practicing the exact skill you'll need when it counts. Stop rereading things you already recognize. Start testing whether you can actually reproduce them. Blurting turns vague studying into a precision operation. Tip 3. Silence is not your friend, and the science backs this up. I know this sounds wrong. The library, the quiet room, the do not disturb sign on your door. We've been told our whole lives that silence equals focus. And look, complete silence is better than chaos. Nobody's saying study with a party going on next to you. But total absolute silence is actually not the optimal environment. environment for most people's brains, and there's a solid reason for that. Your brain is a pattern recognition machine that is always scanning its environment. When there's nothing to detect, nothing coming in at all, your mind tends to generate its own stimulation. That's when you start thinking about what you're having for dinner, or that embarrassing thing you said in 2019, or whether your friend seemed weird in that text. Your brain drifts because it's bored. A little bit of consistent, a non-distracting background sound keeps your brain anchored to the present moment without pulling your attention away from what you're working on. This is where brown noise, white noise, and binaural beats come in. These are not the same as music. Music has melody, lyrics, rhythm changes, emotional cues, all things your brain responds to and gets pulled toward. Background noise, like brown noise, is more like an audio texture. It gives your auditory processing just enough to latch onto without demanding any active attention. Studies have shown these kinds of sounds can improve focus and reduce mind wandering, particularly for tasks that require sustained concentration. Here's a practical challenge. Go to YouTube right now, search brown noise, put on a 25-minute session with it playing in the background, and actually work. No phone, no multitasking, just you and your material and the noise. A lot of people are genuinely surprised by how different it feels. This isn't about setting a bomb or having a cute study aesthetic. This is a functional tool that adjusts your brain's arousal level in a way that makes sustained attention easier. Use it like the tool it is. Tip 4. Your brain won't let you sleep until you do this. You know that feeling the night before an exam where you lie down and your brain just starts firing? You're going over everything you forgot to review, the things on your to-do list, the stuff you're worried about, that one concept that still doesn't quite make sense, and suddenly you've been staring at the ceiling for an hour and a half, and it's midnight, and you have an 8 a.m. exam. Yeah, that's your brain refusing to offload. Here's the thing. Your brain treats unresolved items and unrecorded thoughts like open loops. As long as something exists only in your head without being written down or addressed, your brain keeps pinging it to make sure you don't forget it. It's actually trying to help you. It's just doing it at the worst possible time. The fix is something called a brain dump, and you should do it every single night before you go to sleep, especially before a test. Grab a notebook and write down everything that's taking up mental space. Worries about tomorrow, things you need to do, concepts you're unsure about, random thoughts that keep surfacing, things you're afraid you'll forget. Get all of it out of your head and onto paper. Once it's written down, your brain registers that it's been recorded. The open loops start closing. You've essentially told your brain, "Shush, I've got this. You can stop reminding me." This frees up your mind to actually do what it's supposed to do at night, which is consolidate the day's learning, process what you studied, move things from short-term to long-term memory. Sleep is not just rest. It's when your brain does a significant portion of its memory processing work. But it can't do that effectively if it's still spinning on all the stuff you haven't dealt with. Dump it out first. Let your brain actually rest and work at the same time. Tip 5. You've been thinking about rewards backwards. This whole time, every productivity system ever created has told you the same thing. Do the work first, then reward yourself. Finish studying, then watch the show. Get through the chapter, then have the snack. Hit the goal, then celebrate. And on paper, that sounds completely reasonable. The problem is your brain doesn't work on paper logic. Your brain works on dopamine, and dopamine doesn't care about your long-term plans. Your brain is wired to move toward things that feel good now and away from things that feel unpleasant now. If studying has become associated with discomfort, boredom, stress, and obligation, your brain is going to resist it every single time. You'll procrastinate. You'll find excuses. You'll suddenly need to reorganize your desk before you can possibly start. That's not weakness, that's neuroscience. So here's the reframe. Instead of making studying the unpleasant prerequisite to the reward, make the studying session itself feel rewarding from the start. Build an environment your brain actually wants to be in. Light a candle you like. Make a drink you enjoy. Put on your softest clothes. Sit somewhere comfortable. Have your favorite snack ready. Set up your space in a way that signals this is a good time rather than this is a punishment. What you're doing here is building a conditioned response. Over time, your brain starts associating the act of sitting down to study with the pleasant environment you've created around it. The resistance decreases. Starting becomes easier. And once you're started, momentum builds on its own. Most of your studying problems aren't discipline problems. They're design problems. You haven't built a system your brain wants to participate in. Fix the environment and the behavior follows. Stop relying on willpower you don't have and start engineering situations that work with your brain instead of against it. Yet tip 6, the real reason nothing has worked for you yet, all right. Here it is, the one that wraps everything else together, and the one most people go their entire academic careers without figuring out. Every teacher, every tutor, every study guide, every YouTube video, including this one, has focused on what to study. The content, the material, the information. And yes, that matters. But almost nobody talks about the other half of the equation, which is how your particular brain actually processes and retains information. There are broadly 3 learning style orientations, and while real learning involves all of them to some degree, most people have one that works dramatically better for them than the others. And if you're using the wrong one, you can follow every other tip perfectly and still feel like nothing is sticking. Look, if you're a visual learner, plain text notes are working against you. Your brain needs to see information as a picture, a diagram, a flowchart, a color-coded mind map, a visual structure that shows how ideas connect to each other. Rewriting your notes as dense paragraphs does almost nothing for you. Drawing them out, building visual representations, creating concept maps, that's where your memory actually forms. If you're an auditory learner, reading in silence is one of the least effective things you can do. You need to hear the information. Explain concepts out loud and as if you're teaching them to someone. Record yourself talking through material and play it back while you're doing something routine. Study with a partner you can talk at. The act of hearing information, even in your own voice, is what cements it for you. Boom, if you're a kinesthetic learner, passive review is basically useless. You learn by doing. You need to write things out, build models, physically act out processes, walk around while reciting information. Create flashcards you handle and sort. Your brain connects information to physical experience and movement, and without that dimension, material just slides right off. Here's the brutal truth. Most students who feel like they're bad at studying aren't bad at studying. They've just been using someone else's method. They route about how a high achiever studies and they copy it exactly, and then they're confused when it doesn't work. It doesn't work because that person's brain is not your brain. The method that made their information stick doesn't trigger the same processes in you. Figure out your actual learning style. Well, not the one that sounds most appealing, not the one your friend uses, not the one that looks most organized on TikTok. The one that actually makes things click for you, then build every other tip in this video around that foundation. That's the unlock. That's the thing that makes everything else start working. So there you go. 6 more strategies, all of them real, all of them usable starting today. Stack these on top of what you got from part 1, and you're not just going to study more, you're going to actually remember what you put in. There's a massive difference between the time spent and knowledge gained. These tips are about closing that gap.